envision a scenario where they bottom at the same time as their USD pairs. I could, especially considering how much later in the cycle it's occurring. But yeah, if it were to play out like last cycle, they would bleed, the USD pairs would bleed a little bit longer than the Bitcoin pairs. Not drastically longer, but slightly longer. But that's a good thing about alts, because it's during that bleed that you can figure out which alts are strong ones, because when they bottom out against Bitcoin, that gives you the signal that it's not a relic. All right, I'll say that again. If you're altcoin hunting and you want to know which ones are going to do well in the future, look to see which ones are setting lows against Bitcoin as Bitcoin falls. That's what you look for. That's what I looked for last cycle. It worked out really, really well. I would look for that. Just look to see which ones. There's some alts that just keep putting in new lows against Bitcoin. Let me show you an example. Let me show you kind of a process that I did last cycle. So there were a lot of altcoins that you could have looked at last cycle, but there were some, I don't really want to get into it. There were some that were putting in higher lows in their Bitcoin pairs. There were some that were holding their lows in their Bitcoin pairs, and there were others that were going lower on their Bitcoin pairs. The ones that just keep going lower on their Bitcoin pairs and do not form a bottom over the next, like, say, 3 to 6 months, they're likely relics, and you don't really need to pay attention to those. If they form a bottom over the next 3 to 6 months on their Bitcoin pairs, those are the ones that will likely do well. So that's what you should look for, in my opinion. Look for the ones that can set a low against Bitcoin and then spend 3 to 6 months bouncing off of that low.